I haven't made a video in a little while, but that's not because I haven't been working. This video is going to be about, it's going to be the first in a series of different videos about calculating carrying charges. Now, I'm going to, this is a page, and I haven't completed it. It's a page from my website, and it's kind of one of the pages way on the bottom here. And in this page, I'm making a lesson set on computing carrying charges, and I discuss why carrying charges are so important. Getting it right is so important. If you compare capital-intensive technologies in electricity, for example, with fuel-intensive technologies, you have to account for different asset lives, capital costs. You have to account for taxes. You have to account for debt instead of equity return. Really importantly here, you have to account for inflation. And in our battery example, which is, this is really a input and a requirement for the battery analysis we're going to be making, you need to account for this replacement cost. You don't have to really account for decommissioning, and finally also deferred taxes, which is an enormous pain. Now I've kind of skirted around this for a while, and I'm making a file. This video is going to be kind of part of making it. I'm going to go through all of the kind of components of the carrying charge. I want to define it first. It's in analyses, in different. If you look at, let's find the. Excuse me, just 1 second, just 1 second. I'm not going to stop the video just because of this. I have a whole section really on levelized cost of electricity, and in one of the things, and we're going to work on this, I'm going to download every single little piece of data in this file, and it's really, really exciting because some of this data, a lot of this data has commas instead of, or it's kind of in a European format. So I'm going to demonstrate how the read PDF handles that. Now I'm just trying to find, there's overnight costs, okay? And let me make this larger so we can really see it. Overnight cost, where did I find that? Overnight cost. Overnight cost. We're going to convert an overnight cost, which we'll see exactly why they use the term overnight cost and all the sorts of things we have to do to convert that to an annual cost and what it means. You can't build a plant overnight. But we'll see why we tend to use that, or people, whatever, these IEA and all that use that. So the definition of this carrying charge is to take an overnight cost without inflation, without interest during construction, convert that into a nominal amount, account for the inflation, and take it back. Now, I have in other files discussed project finance in the context of carrying charge rates. This time I'm going to do it in kind of a more traditional approach. And so let me explain that. Now, in going through this, I'm going to go through a simple case with no taxes. We're going to fix this and improve this. Then we're going to go add taxes to our simple case. No debt, no inflation or anything else. Then I'm going to put, well, what happens if we put taxes in, and this time what happens if we have tax depreciation that's not equal to the book depreciation, or more precisely economic depreciation, as you'll see. And then we're going to add a construction period. And then we're going to add a replacement at some future date, a replacement capital expenditure. And then we're going to put some debt into the analysis. And that gets a little complicated. It really does, because we have to have a constant capital structure, and then we're going to put all the debt together and finally get a really comprehensive example, okay, that I'll finish up. So this is, I'm going to try to make a whole course out of this, and it's a really important issue. If you get this, there'll be a whole lot of project finance and corporate finance principles in this. I swear there will. And so I'm going to take the first kind of case where we just have a simple case with no taxes. So let's start. I said, well, we have let's put a 10% cost of capital, 1,000 for the investment, and let's put a life of 20 years. Now, this has no inflation, and we'll show you kind of a classic revenue requirements, or recovery analysis from accounting standpoint, and then put some economic depreciation into that. So first thing we better do is make a timeline. Okay, now I'm also going to show you some new things in generic macros that I've spent so much time, so I haven't been not doing anything. Please. So let's put our let's put our time period. Now, please, I hope that one of the things, I never used to use it, but Alt-EIS, tab, let's put 50 years as most in there. So we start with a timeline always, and then let's put an operating period. And I'm going to do this again. I'm going to start with 0. Because we really need and this is only going to be one video, only one video. I'm going to go through the basics. Turn off the base. This is some basic stuff, okay? And then let's put a switch and put kind of our make it a little bit transparent, okay? Now, just a minute, okay, and let's take this and make it less than or equal to this, of course. F4, Shift Control R, because I have the generic macro open. Now, no, I'm going to use the coloring in just a minute. So in our analysis, we don't need this anymore. And I'm just going to work through in this kind of a classic, let's put a classic recovery analysis. Okay. And what you would do typically here, this just refers to this. So let's, I guess I'll do this, F4, Shift Control R, but multiply this by the, I just did something kind of bad. Let's just start in period 1. And then let's put a depreciation rate. So I'm just going to make a kind of simple straight line depreciation, okay? And again, we'll just multiply this. Now, I just spent 3 days. There's some really smart lady, and she worked at Drexel Burnham in Wall Street. And if you don't put a timeline in, there was no timeline in the model. It was so frustrating. Basically, the model was complete crap because there's no timeline. And then we'll put accumulated depreciation. Okay, and we just take the last period plus the depreciation expense. Okay, and then we'll get our net investment, which is just our gross investment minus the accumulated depreciation. Okay, and we have a rate of return, and whenever we do this kind of analysis, I'm going to start, this is kind of cheating here. This is really bad. That's what I was kind of moaning about. I just couldn't believe how important some little style things are and some transparency and getting timelines right is. I was going crazy. I was thinking, what is the matter with me? Why is this taking so long to fix this crap? You use the prior period, okay? Always. And of course, um, fix my senility here to get the total. And then our total amount we have to recover is the depreciation expense that we charge on the income statement plus our return. And this gives you kind of a classic revenue requirement decline. Now, in the old days, here's what I used to do, and I have to admit this was somewhere. I don't want to tell you what decade it was. Let me just say it was when disco was popular. Okay? And this is what I would do. You would take the NPV of revenues and you would just use the kind of common discount rate and take it. Okay? Oh no, just a minute. Now, we're going to use the payment function again and again. We can take the PNT of using the interest rate of our 20 years and then put a minus on the investment. And that shows you the fundamental things that you need. Okay? Now, let's prove this a couple times because we're going to do a whole lot of proofs to make sure everything works. So proof of payment. I know this is a little bit simple. Sorry about that, but we'll just it shows some of the fundamentals. Okay, and then we uh, multiply this by the switch so it turns off at the right time. I should be doing something always. Keep the timeline in sight. Oh my gosh, that's so important. And then, well, just by definition of the payment function, if we take the NPV of the revenues, of the level revenues, we just put, let's use the regular old cost of capital and get our NPV of revenues. Very basic stuff. A couple of things that now will be a tiny little less basic. We're going to show you about economic depreciation, and I'm going to also show you uh, how to just get a simple proof that the levelized cost is the weighted average cost of the we can get the same payment as a weighted average. So let me just that we need a PV factor. 1 divided by, let's get the 10%. Okay, so we need a 1 divided by 1 plus the discount rate. Oh no. Okay. And we raise that to the first power. So I'm going to basically show you that when if we would take a weighted average of all of the changing rates, we will get exactly the same as the payment function. I've done this a few different times. 1 second. I hate making mistakes in videos, but I did. I didn't need to do, this was just such a simple kind of thing where if you just take the weighted average of the recovery and just only use the present value factor, okay, and then take the sum product of the total recovery and the weighting, then you get the same answer. Now, let's do one more thing. Let's take the revenues we get from our levelization, just another kind of proof, multiply those, excuse me, if multiply these by our little switch, okay, shift control R, and then let's put the investment as a negative, okay, and then we'll get the total cash flow. And this is just a kind of second proof. So, oops, what happened there? Just put a IRR, and I hope you realize that you can be lazy. That's our other proof. I'm going to use that a lot. Finally, let's put an economic depreciation. This is kind of a little more difficult. Now, if we, I'm going to use the PPMT approach. Nothing fancy. It's okay. I didn't read this in a book. I just did some Excel to figure it out. And if we put PPMT, put a rate in, our normal rate, and then use our period, and then get our total periods, which I can get from here, I guess, and then put our investment in. I'll just put a minus and get it from the top. And you know, if you go too far, whoops, I didn't have a F4 on the investment. Okay, we do this, and eventually it gives us a num. This is a good place to just use the if error, I think. Okay, and this is our economic depreciation. You notice how it goes up, down and then up. And now look at this beautiful kind of thing that happens. We take our same sort of things we did up here. Okay, I think I can even just copy these things down. Okay, and the only thing I'm going to change now, whoops, is, well, we don't need a depreciation rate. And this better be, okay. Now, I'm going to put in, instead of the regular old depreciation, I'm going to put in our economic depreciation. And our accumulated depreciation is computed in the same way. And then this investment will compute in the same way. And then our net investment now is much higher. You see this. Okay. And I better press Shift Control 1. And then our return is the same kind of thing, multiplied by the opening balance. And I suppose I need this same kind of thing. I'll take it from the top. That's pretty important. That's a simple little rule, but it actually is kind of important. And then our total recovery is the depreciation plus our return. Oh, look at that number. And then you copy it across and you get the same number all the way across. So you can do that very initial recovery method that we talked about, that I talked about, okay, and you can get exactly the same number. Okay, so if you could figure out the economic depreciation, we could just kind of plop in our investment, put in an economic depreciation, and then get our levelized carrying charge. And our carrying charge in this case is the Ah, and I hope you're. I wonder if anybody's left the video on, but I hope you see that this is kind of important. It. I'm gonna put the carrying charge over here. Now I'm gonna show you that this is a ridiculous carrying charge. There's no way it's anywhere close to this. And you can make so many mistakes, and this number can go from 11%. Now, in our battery case, we only have a 10-year life. It goes all the way up to 16. Okay, it's just a payment function now. It's not very fancy, really, is it? Okay, but this concept will prove to be essential by the time we're finished. Now, I have this new version, this version I really have worked on of our generic macros. And let's just clean up this. And this time, you don't press Shift Control C. Excuse me, press Shift Alternate C. And when you press Shift Alternate, oh, I have some stuff I have to take out. But this is kind of cool now. I can, would you want the inputs to look like this, or this, or this? So you can look at the generic macros and figure out how to do this. Or you can put a little thing in, and if we go to 5, well, I suppose I didn't make it automatically click on the thing. And then we can put a flexible input color here. Okay. And then I'm going to clean the conditional formatting. I'll explain what this is. Now I'm going to include conditional formatting to format the true and false at the top, rather blue. And then I'm going to format the colors in column A so I can choose not to if I don't want to. And this is really important. This is how the whole thing works. It says go down 59 rows and 57 columns, and put a long thing here. Put a long title in. So you just hit color the sheet, and then it does it for you. Okay. And oops. Oh no. Oh, shoot, I didn't finish talking. I thought I paused and I didn't. But that's it. Okay, I'm in the middle of cleaning the very last little thing up on that generic macro. Sorry about that last thing. I'm going to leave that mess in there because if anybody really watched all the way to the end, this person who gives me this dislike, I'm sure, didn't make it to the end, okay? But that's our new generic macro, and we're going to use that in the subsequent video. So this is the kind of first carrying charge video.